Stormy Sail by Andrea Cubis. This painting was commissioned by some friends who have bought many of my paintings and continue to support my crazy painting ideas. This one in particular, they wanted for their son, which I thought was really awesome because their son is such a fantastic person. Really a young man as opposed to a boy anymore. He is very thoughtful of other people, and when he sees a challenge, I have seen him many times in the past live up to that challenge and persevere through it. So when I was creating this painting, I was thinking of his personality as I was creating it. So what I wanted to create was this situation where a sailboat was able to persevere through the storm, and maybe through a storm that other sailboats hadn't. So my first objective was to create the storm, and that is what you're seeing at the top. I've got those stormy clouds going, and then I create these really rough waves. And I've used different shades of the same color. I kind of took the color two different ways. To create that really nice light aqua color, I mixed this blue and green together and then threw different shades of white with it. Sorry, different amounts of white with it. Then to create that almost black, there's a reason it's almost black, it's because I added black going that direction. And I kept those two separate palettes separate so that it wouldn't end up with grays, because I didn't want shades of gray going on in here. I just wanted these different tints and shades of this aqua color to create a depth within this storm. As I was painting, I kept trying to find different ways to show how moody this storm was. So you'll see right now I'm actually putting a flash of lightning is what was put up in those clouds, and that push of white going down into the bottom was, to me, that lightning hitting the water. That strange middle section is the divide in this painting, and the idea is the viewer is kind of half submersed in the water and can see above at the waves and can see below under the water at the same time. And I was really trying to get the sense that they could see a fair ways under this water. And that's what I'm doing right now, is kind of creating that ceiling of the water in that little wave that's going on there. And I just did that by doing smaller strokes, and I apologize that I keep flipping it back and forth. It's just some of those little details were easier to do if it was upside down. Then I came in with that same aqua color, but again using different depths. I used lighter colors further back, and I built it up to these really dark shadows that were nice and close. And you'll note that the hills, the cliffs, the underwater cliffs closer have a lot more detail, and the ones in the back are just kind of lost in the water. As I was trying to figure out what is my light source under the water, and I figured that flash of lightning was my main light source in such a stormy situation. And that reminds me of Blake. Blake is very much a light source in the middle of a stormy situation, because things will go crazy and you'll see them going crazy all around everyone else, and the adults are trying so hard to figure it out. And Blake will come along and ask a question quite seriously and very maturely, and he'll ask it in such a way that kind of makes everyone else stop and go, oh my goodness, how did we miss that? So to me, the calm underneath is also symbolic of Blake's personality. Even though he oh my goodness, the energy from him is huge, he will shock you with these insights that are so phenomenal. And I think anyone who's ever met Blake knows that if you just step back a moment and listen and pay attention to him, you'll realize that he has got so much going, and that he is probably outthinking us all as we're trying to sort it out. Now, I will admit, okay, it's an ocean. I had to do a shipwreck. And I had to make it look like these stormy seas aren't something that everyone can get through. And I do believe that. I do believe there's going to be things that Blake will face, that other people will face the same challenge or a similar one and may not come through it. And I think Blake very much will, because he has a very clear way of looking at the world around him. And that's where the sailboat that we're not looking at right now has such a direct aim as to where it's going. And this poor sailboat under the water with the big gaping hole didn't have a clear direction, needed that clarity that Blake has. So I did debate this poor ship on how to do the mast going up, and I decided to actually have them poke out above the water, and you actually see the water bubbling as it's pushing. Those are like the resistance of the water against the mass. Even though this is an older boat, it's obviously hasn't been there too long because it still has some material on it, and I thought those masts could still be fighting against the water, and that kind of gives us that feel with it being pushed through the water. This boat is how I see Blake. He's running the wave, and the wave is pretty scary, but he's running it, and he's running it with confidence, and I very much see that as being a personality trait of Blake, and I think that's awesome, and I'm very blessed to know him for that very reason. In doing the sails, I did many layers to try, and even though I wanted to show that this boat was conquering this wave, that the reason the boat was conquering the wave is because the boat is a part of the situation. So when I first painted it, I did white and gray, and I found it was actually blending into the sky more than to the waves. And to me, for the boat to survive, it had to connect to the waves, the very thing that was pushing it around. So I went over those sails a bunch more times. You'll see it's coming up, and I actually added some of that bluish green that the waves have in reflection of what is towering right above it. Now the sails on that bottom boat I went back to a couple of times. I'm sure you've noticed by now, because it dawned on me, even though I had the sails nicely floating off over to the right, that if the water was pulling against those pulls towards the left, that it would also pull on the sail. So even though you got those currents going different ways in this big storm, the sail should also show them being pulled in many different ways. So in creating the top sailboat, I wanted to make it look like a manned boat. It wasn't just a boat randomly floating out there. So you'll see that I put some detailing in the boat itself. This is now the part that I was talking about where I added the green to the sails, so that it reflected more to do with the ocean that it's on. And I added the lines holding those sails into place, and little divots that the lines were holding on to. And then here's the fun part, the ending, the icing on the cake. Here's me adding the foam, and this white I mixed with the modeling paste, and I did that because I wanted there to be a textural difference to really show how violent this storm is. Part of it, I thought Blake would think it was cool, so I hope you do, Blake. The other part, I think it emphasizes the danger that the boat is in, and yet even though it's in danger, it's in full sail and it is going forward, and it will survive, unlike the other sailboat that did not survive. So I hope you enjoyed this painting. I know I very much enjoyed making it for Blake. This is Stormy Sail by Andrea Cubis. Happy birthday, Blake. Thank you for watching, and I hope you continue to watch my future videos. Have a great day.